Hello guys and welcome to the channel. This is WvW. In today's video I want to talk about my roaming condition Soulbeast build, which I think is the best build for roaming with condition Soulbeast, or at least the most efficient way to play it. You will have timestamps because we will talk about the gear, traits, explain how the build work. We will talk about tips for how you can use it efficiently. Like, we're gonna go really deep in this, so I really urge you to look into the video and truly understanding how this build works. And if you want the direct link, I will leave it in the description, so you can also take it on the side if you need. Now, without further ado, let's get right into it, starting with the traits. So, like usual, I like to run my standard condition style, which I'm going with skirmishing, wilderness survival, and whatever the elite specialization I run. In this case, it's Soulbeast. So I go with sharpened edges, hidden barbs, and light on your feet, since we are using shortbow. So skirmishing is very good because it offers you on weapon swap swiftness, fury, and it gives you critical chance and critical damage if you flank in the enemy, which means if you hit the enemy from anywhere around them except a 45-degree angle in front of them. However, we're not power players, so this trait is irrelevant to us, but getting swiftness and fury on weapon swap is really good to have two sources for swiftness, since we have this skill on shortbow, and now with the weapon swap we also get it, so we do not struggle or feel stuck around with lower movement speed. And the fury will help us to trigger sharpened edges as much as we can, since we do not put critical chance or precision in this build. It's simply a choice to increase our damage in case it just happened. So sharpened edges give us bleed on critical chance for us and our pet. 33 chance, which mean with our fury, it's very minimum, like 1 to 6 hits or 1 to 7 hits. But it's a little bit of extra damage, so it's nice. But we don't count on it anyway. You can, in case you want, to change to primal reflexes, and we will touch on it a little bit more later. So you have a source of vigor to help you even dodge more. So you don't have to actually go sharpened edges, I just choose it. Hidden barbs is necessary because it increases your bleeding damage by 33%, and guess what? This is a mostly bleeding build. It's not a poison Soulbeast, and I will touch on that in a moment. So 33% for your bleeding damage that come from everywhere, from entangled, from sharpened stone, from your auto attacks, like many things you do here will do bleed. It's the main source of your damage. And light on your feet, obviously, because we run shortbow, so lower cooldown, better condition, piercing, and even the effect of light on your feet when you dodge or when you use this skill, that will give you extra condition duration and extra power damage. And with the survival side, like this one's more focused for damage and stuff. However, for the survival side, usually we go with wellness survival. So this trait gives us a Child of Earth as my choice, which means every time I heal, I will leave this effect under me, which is Lesser Muddy Terrain, immobilizing target and keep bolzing slow and cripple. And again, it's a survival skill, which will work very well with Wellness or Knowledge, because any survival skill will cleanse 2 condition, and again will give us Fury, could help a little bit with sharpened edges. Which means 2 extra condition cleanse with the skill I already run, which is Bear Stance. And this one is Empathic Bond, and Empathic Bond work insanely well with Soulbeast, because this bit swap will cleanse 2 condition, but there is no internal cooldown. It works in combat. If you have condition and you simply bit swap, you will cleanse 2. However, inside Soulbeast we can swipe bits, which mean it also cleanse condition. So simply this would cleanse 2 condition, and then you can leave and do that and cleanse 2 other condition. And you can keep repeating the process. So in minimum situation, in double swipe simply inside and then out, you can cleanse 4. Instead of normal ranger behavior, we'll only cleanse 2 and wait for the cooldown of the bit swap again, because you have 2 different bit swaps that will trigger this trait. Also, switching bits with Eternal Bond will reset the normal switch. So as you can see, I have Burning on me. If I switch bits, I cleanse. If I switch here, I cleanse. But if I leave, I have the switch ready again. If you enter again the beast mode, you will not get to reset the Eternal Bond. So until the Eternal Bond is resetted, you at least have a full cycle of only 10-second cooldown practically back to back, only to reset this one. So let's look at that again back to back. and I cleanse again. And if I wait until I can enter beast mode, as you can see, Eternal Bond is still on cooldown actually, which is a good advantage to keep in mind for this skill. Now the minors are Nature Vigor will give you increased endurance regulation by 25%. It's consistent, it's passive, it's always happening. And whenever you dodge, you and your pet get protection, and protection heal you. And this will going to be very important when we reach another point in the build. And this is another source of healing, and we're going to have many sources of healing to keep resetting ourselves in the fight and keep ourselves with better sustain. Now for Soulbeast, I go with Unstoppable Union just in case I need it for extra protection. It's a source of vigor, which a little bit why I didn't need this. Even so, it's not like it's covering anything. You can still go with that. And it's another source of protection to simply lower the damage and protection heal you. Remember that. And you will cleanse all movement impairing condition, immobilize, cripple, and chill once you merge with your pet. So once you do that, you get protection and vigor, and you remove those conditions if they are on you, and you can simply start kiting immediately. However, you don't have to go for it. You can also go with Live Fast. I've tested it also in my roaming, and it was really good. Those 2 seconds of quickness just give you a little bit of edge in unloading your burst faster. But the extra survivability felt great, especially I already run a quickness skill, so I can access a quickness if I need it simply to unload a faster burst. But whatever you choose, they are both good if you want. With the second trait, I go with Predator's Cunning, which means when we apply poison, it will do a life siphon damage and life siphon heal. So we keep healing ourselves through poison and do a tiny bit of extra damage on the enemy, and we have a lot of poison in the build, even so it's not a poison build, it's focused on bleeding. And lastly, with Eternal Bond, which means whenever you use any skill while being merged with the pet, any of those skills, they will heal us, which again, another source of healing, and we will talk about that very soon. And give us access to this skill, Eternal Bond, which means we can swipe bits while being merged, like I explained in Empathic Bond, which means we can trigger this trait in 2 different ways, back to back, even if needed to cleanse more condition, just for convenient or for need. The minors, however, are Furious Strings, which mean you increase your damage while having Fury, which is irrelevant since we are condition players, and twice as vicious. When you disable a foe, you will increase your damage and condition damage, which is decent since we are condition players, so you get extra 5% condition damage. So let's round up the traits. The things that you shouldn't change or this build will be weaker is running the trait lines obviously, and you go with Hidden Barbs, Light on Your Feet, Child of Earth, Empathic Bond, and Wellness Knowledge. You don't change anything in this line, and you go with Predator's Cunning and Eternal Bond as the best choices. However, you can change between those 2 if you need it, and you can change between those 2 if you need it, or if you like a different play style, you want the more dodges, you want here the opposite, you want to be more bursty or help yourself into unloading the burst even easier and not even with the other source of quickness or have 2 other sources, you can go for it. This is how the traits work. Now let's talk about the gear. So I run mostly Trailblazer. So the entire armor, those 6 pieces, are all Trailblazer. My short bow is Trailblazer. The back, the amulet, both the rings. So all those 2 rings, amulet, back, the entire armor and short bow are Trailblazer. Only the staff, the 2 accessories are Apothecary. So I run short bow and staff in case you just notice. The armor I run Rune of the Trapper since it's the best condition rune as a combination of condition damage and condition duration. It has the best stat setup for condition players, and it's very famous in most builds, whether you're competitive, whether you're PvE, it's just kinda standard anyway. And for my weapons, I run Cleansing and Energy in both setups. Since this is not a droid, for example, you don't enter Celestial Avatar and it changes this skill bar, which count as a weapon swap. You actually only weapon swipe to trigger any effect like that. So any sigil you put on a weapon swipe trigger can only be accessed through actual weapon swap, not into an entering state like Celestial Avatar for Druid, which means the cooldown of 9 seconds will be exact as the weapon swap itself. You will get the effect of the sigil every time you do a weapon swap. It will not conflict with Celestial Avatar and you swipe once. Now you got the effect of cleansing. Now you didn't get the effect of cleansing. And this is why on Druid we use it only on staff, but on other builds like Untamed or Soulbeast, it's good to use it on both. So you always get the effect on 10 seconds. If you need it right at your feet, you can simply use it. So we get extra cleanse for 3 conditions, and we get an extra dodge, so you can immediately go into kiting and it can help you survive better. Now why I'm running staff and why I'm putting healing power. If you notice, we have too many sources of healing. Like Bear Stance is a healing skill that will also turn conditions into healing. The other bit I run have a healing skill, so you can also heal yourself and your allies. The staff itself have a lot of healing with regeneration, healing skill. You can blast finisher for even more healing with skill 5 and 3, for example. So there is many ways to heal yourself, and staff correspond with healing power significantly. So it can really increase the amount of healing you get through healing power. And not only that, every dodge and every condition, every dodge and every protection source applied to us will heal us per second for us and our bit. This does not really affect us much because it's a life siphon, but it's also healing. And even the Eternal Bond trait will heal for every skill our bit use. The regeneration coming from this skill is actually corresponding to your number, not the bit. So for example, if I go with a boon duration gear and I use the healing, as you can see, I get 9 seconds instead of 6 because I have boon duration. So it comes with your stats, not the bits. So there is so many little heals here, like protection, regeneration, a heal from the bit, a heal from the skill, the staff stuff. So I needed some healing power in order to use this efficiently and give myself this tempo of survivability that I can take a punch, I can fight for longer and reset the fight easily and stuff. And it's a low number. I only had to put it in like 3 pieces, so it doesn't really affect my damage as much. I still have very decent damage and burst anyway. Now let's talk about our skill choices. I go with Bear Stance, Relic Stance, Sharpened Stone, Quickening Zephyr, and Entangle. So my first iteration, I tried to put Vulture Stance in to like really build into damage. You would poison the enemy, you would apply might to yourself. It's very good. However, running only 1 stun break, and sometimes you would need it to simply safe stump someone or simply secure your ability to go with your burst in a melee situation or stuff. Running 1 stun break in any build is difficult, and running it as a build that works this way was even worse. However, Quickening Zephyr also allow you to apply more damage because the quickness will simply let you hit faster. So even the auto attacks, this amount of bleed or any other skill will land even faster. Even your bit skills will land easier and faster. So it's not like you really lose any damage with going from Vulture Stance to Quickening Zephyr. It can be used simply for applying damage and burst someone. However, always make sure to have a way out. So at least one of the stun breaks to be secure. Simply you needing to start kiting. So don't blow everything. Like Relic Stance to not be interrupted, and then Quickness to hit faster, and now you have nothing. Don't ever do that. Bear Stance allows us an insanely strong defense against condition. It allows you almost to tank your enemy or don't care for the little bit of condition or don't even dodge it. So it saves other resources against condition player, and it saves you in general in case you've been bombarded with condition. And it turns them to healing. So it's for 4 seconds, and it turn 2 condition per second, which mean a total of 8 with the amount of healing it gives you. And remember, we are running the trait A Child of Earth, which mean an extra 2 will be cleansed simply from this survival skill. And since we are running Wilderness Knowledge, we also have 3 survival skills besides the one on the healing, and each one of them will be used to cleanse condition in case we need it to. And again, we have more condition cleanse with Empathic Bond on bit swipe in the 2 states, inside beast mode and out, and we have cleanse and sigil on the staff and on the short bow. So we have some seriously good defense against condition. And since it's a bleeding build with hidden barbs and stuff, from your auto attack to other hits that you can land with your own damage, like this one, from Sharpened Stone and Entangle, all of them have bleed on them. And even when you merge with your bit, you have some bleeding here. So you can do significant damage compared to other builds like poison builds and stuff, especially that we're not running dagger, which we will touch on in a second. So most of our damage on the weapon itself come from bleeding only. And that gets me to the point why I didn't try to make a poison build, and almost why I never make a poison build for Soulbeast. Never played it, I never found it to be sufficient enough. Poison builds for Soulbeast might be good in PvP, for example, because the fights are more choked. You have allies to help you when you move around, you have a small window of burst. It's very efficient to ruin people healing. There's not much you can put into condition damage or duration. It's very limited. You don't have Trailblazers there. So the fights are not as long and extensive, and you don't count or you don't have it as a goal to fight outnumber, unlike roaming forward Berserk World. So you need an easy and simple way to put damage, which you always resort to bleeding. It's a main condition. And to play a poison build, you would have to run something like Poison Master, which is a single attack. It's not worth as much, but you try to keep putting more and more. With Soulbeast, you would never run Ambidexterity because Empathic Bond is even extra good with it. But anyway, you feel a little bit limited. That's why I do not recommend a poison build, maybe for PvP, but not honestly for roaming. If you play a lot with other players, like you're always with a group or have support, you can run Dagger instead of Staff, and you can turn a build into a poison build in a way. You can even switch Sharpened Stone for Vulture Stance, or you can add it simply to have double the impact and count on your allies to help you, like if you have always a support or something like that. But for solo roamers, true roamers, this doesn't really function as good as you think. Which also get me to why I don't run Dagger. So Dagger is good and have some decent mobility with only, well, a single skill for mobility, this one, and it's a very short leap. It works well, but it's very short. You have still mobility from the 2 bits, but when we explain how you really play the build and goes the burst, you will find you don't have this much way into kiting, because you would waste a lot of the mobility simply for engaging. And now you want to get out, but those skills are not really free. Staff, however, offers the exact opposite. It offers a defensive weapon when you can immediately kite, while you can burn a lot and go deep in the fight before you can get out. Besides, without projectile defense and a way to lock the enemy or get out from their way, things can get really difficult from you, especially in outnumbered fight. You have a ranger there and an engineer there, or a harbinger, both of them hitting you with projectile. You need a breathing room, a way to simply hit and not get hit in order to compensate for being outnumbered, and Staff offers that very well. And the heal also will allow you not only to survive using a projectile defense, but even when you get hit, you can heal up back easier and faster, and offer some great mobility with 1200 range here from this skill. And that get me to something really important, which is the Relic. If you notice, I didn't get to it when I talked about my gear. So the Relic I resorted to use eventually, and it was a bit obvious to me as a choice, was the Relic of Earth. This relic has become very popular right now. It's one of the best that came with the last batch, because it's not only give you the protection and magnetic aura, it's give it to you and everyone around you, which mean even your pet can get it, or your allies if you play in a group, as you can see. So why Relic of Earth? Unlike most my other ranger build, this one does not need speed relic actually. You don't need the extra movement speed that we get with Druid, because you're not locked into Staff as the only way of survivability. In fact, you have other. You have this mobility skill, you have this mobility skill, and even this one. So you can cut some serious distance and survive using only the skills you already have. Since you have 3 mobility skills, you can get in and out of fight with ease. You can use one to engage, you can use another to kite, you can use both if you want to run away, you can use both if you're chasing someone. Like, you can use everything depending on the situation, and you can adapt easily. Even catching you down is not this easy, because Doliac stance, that means no one can do anything. Maybe corrupt the stability, but still there is no way to immobilize, chill, or cripple you. You can even have access to some super speed in case you need it. You have some decent access to swiftness. You have immobilize to lock the enemy behind you and kite them if you need, or lock the enemy and start bursting them if you're the chaser, with again extra immobilize, some decent CCs, stuff like that. So you can still play with some control in enemy's position, focused on the immobilize, similar to a Druid method. However, you have way more mobility than Druid. And another even part of it is running this trait in case you want, so you can immediately loosen the enemy's grip if they immobilized you or anything like that. I didn't feel like I needed Speed Relic. In fact, I felt like it hindered the bit a bit, because in outnumber situation with all our healing, we don't have stealth, so we can't really shift the fight. We don't have as much CC, and most of our damage and control and even CC will be locked into specific target, so we can't really affect everyone around us and create this safe area when the enemy can't hurt us, or we heal back up. We don't run turtle, if you noticed. So there was many problems, especially with projectile players. So this is a projectile defense, and once it's gone, everyone can keep landing their hits on you, and the only thing you can do is simply lowering their damage using either protection, dolly stance, or something like that, and healing back up. You can CC one of them, you can control two, start line of sight, but all of them can still go ham on you. So I wanted to mimic access to turtle without actually running turtle. And what can do that was both protection, so if you hit in melee, if someone hit you, you lower their damage. If you hit with a projectile, it doesn't land. It's simply to mimic the bubble of the turtle, which is Relic of Earth. And remember, protection heals us and our bit, which mean I also get healing from it. And if I'm on staff and trying to kite, it's even more healing. So it's more than 250 for each second, which means it's like 1k and a half simply from casting our elite. It's protection, so it's not only the healing, it's even the damage that come lower. So it's like a passive healing before it even happened. And magnetic aura is even stronger than a projectile defense. It will reflect, so it will hurt the enemy. Their CC will land on them, and it's great for 4 seconds. And every time we use entangle, this will land. So it helps while kiting, it helps even while bursting right to the face of the enemy, like it rating bunches with them, whether they are melee or in range. And even with entangle, it works very well, because once you catch the enemy, if you're hitting 2 or whatever, someone is melee, you can leave them right here, they can't reach you, and someone with range is here, you can start bursting them, even going melee with your knockdown skills and your melee hits and stuff. So this one can't hit you, and even if it can, you have protection. And this one, let's say it's the range one, so you're trying to take them first. They reflected, all they do is reflected, and you can keep bursting on them. So it worked very well, and it was my best choice. However, you don't have to use it. This build is kind of free. Like unlike Druid, we feel stuck in Speed Relic. This one is not stuck in almost any relic. So you can use Speed Relic, you can use Earth, you can use Fractal if you want higher significant burst for an individual player, like to really burst someone, and like in 1v1s, you can use Fractal Relic. You can use, I tried even the Demon Queen, the one with poison. This one, it's not this great since it's, again, like we explained, not a poison build, but lowering the healing of the enemy and doing extra poison every CC, and you have 3 CCs in this build, was decent. However, like I said, Earth Relic was great, and it's quite popular with groups right now, because if your support have it, it's already have another source of protection and aura to give everyone around them. So it's very decent relic and very strong. And with Ranger, it works extra because protection heals you. Now let's explain why the bit choices. So B is actually the new bit that came with Janther batch, was the reason I felt compelled in order to make such build. Like, I experienced a little bit with Soulbeast before it, and it didn't feel good enough, and I created an Untamed build, which you can check. I will leave in the description and cards, because I felt Soulbeast is a bit too weak. Like, I wasn't convinced. You unload your burst, people simply avoid it. Like, you have to go with very damaging bits, which there is other, but you lack the control, so people can kite you, can dodge you, stuff like that. B doesn't only offer the damage, it also offers the control. Most Soulbeast builds, like really focused on damage, would go with Burst Back as the highest burst spike that you can immediately go. Because once you merge with it, you have an extra sharpened stone, you still have Primal Cry, and you can unload those projectiles for some significant bleeding damage too. So it is by far the highest damage possible. However, there is no mobility, there is no CC, people can dodge, can kite, can cast their cleanse, can cast their heal, and the only, as you can see in this right now, the only CC I have is this skill. And if I used it to even catch them down, I don't have any other CC, and I would have to change bit in order to go for another bit that actually would give me CC. And even when you unmerge, the bit is almost useless. It will do some damage, it will hit with some few decent hits, like the damage is great, I guess. However, again, no control. While B, on the other hand, have her own knockdown for 3 seconds on single target, have her own poison and decent damage, and you can use it also to cripple and slow enemy. So it can give you control and some cover conditions that's very decent. And once you merge, it gives you mobility, so it helps you for kite. It's a leap finisher, it's a dodge, and it's a 3-second knockdown on a single enemy, and it's a 600 radius. It works like bolt charge, so even with someone with high ping like me, it work mostly well. Like it doesn't get really stuttery like the old skills when you try to move and you have ping so you don't move the entire distance. I explained this problem with high ping before in another video. But simply if you use a movement skill where you have high ping or unstable connection, in Guild Wars 2 you will not move the whole distance. Your character will stutter and move like a short distance. And if the ping is so high, it can even stay in place while the skill is being casted and everything. And you still have some decent damage in the other two skills. If you go to the other bit, you don't really have to go with this one, but this one is the best, obviously. It have healing already and regeneration, which is very decent, can help you and help your allies. It have its own CC and cripple with some decent landing and for 2-second knockdown, and when you merge with it, you have an extra knockdown for 2 seconds, 400 distance, this one, and you can have mobility to kite, and even you can catch people with it and cripple them so they not run as fast as you, and you have this one for healing and resistance, and it also remove condition, so it's an extra condition removal which is very nice and can heal even other allies and do it all effect. You can also go with the other bit, but this one for the unflinching fortitude, which is an extra stun break, take no damage, very strong, very good, but long cooldown. And again, we want the healing back again in order to keep resetting ourselves. Our healing is not enough. With multiple sources, you can take the damage and recover. You can make the mistake. You can have the high ping like me and not even see the attack coming, and you can still heal through. So having extra healing is actually better, especially because we are running the Relic of Earth, which means with the moment we start kiting, most of the damage will not land because it's projectile damage, and if it's melee, it's lower, but we are kiting and probably immobilizing the enemy, so we can keep ourselves alive, heal, engage again, heal, engage again. It's the same cycle. So this is probably the best bit with such functionality. And lastly, my food is standard. I go with any regeneration food, depending on the price. I go with tropical peppermint cake. It's very good for the extra karma. You can go for the holographic cake, you can go for the ascended if you can spend the food, the celestial one, because it can give you all the stats and still give you regeneration, so it will help with the healing, with the condition, damage, with toughness, vitality, everything. This is my choice. If you go for the ascended, you can go for mango pie. If it's cheaper than tropical peppermint cake, the price keeps shifting and changing. The other one, I go with corsair toning crystal for extra condition, duration from toughness, and extra condition damage too. Now let's explain how the build works, like how the burst works. Sharpened Stone is casted almost off cooldown, or whenever you feel you don't really need the cleanse or anything. It just, you unload, and because it lasts on you for 30 seconds, and you can hit it like right at the end, and you only have the rest of the cooldown to trigger it. Like, let's say I'm running around, or me casting it, I was already going to a camp or out of the camp or whatever, and now I'm gonna start fighting. I can have it. I can unload this entire damage, like right now, just like that, and now I can unload it again. And as you can see, the damage is too high. So Sharpened Stone is used like that. This skill have been changed. Whether you or your bit land it, it will land with the same damage. The only difference is your bit giving you the effect of higher condition damage and precision. This one. Whether you cast it or your bit cast it, it's not really a big deal. Sometimes you will see me using the bit actually to land it while I'm trying to kite, and I'm sure they will land a hit or knockdown and then I engage again or stuff like that. However, make sure your bit actually landed so you don't immediately use it and then merge and now it's gone. So whenever you use it, either it's on your bit or either it is on you, but it's anyway you will use your own condition. So you start always in B and you start on short bow and you cast Sharpened Stone whenever you can to simply keep the cooldown counting while you still have the ability to go full burst on someone. I usually start inside the fight like with B, but if I feel like I need to test the fight first or I'm baiting something, I could start with the B actually out instead of I can merge it with it and can do its hit, its knockdown, and I can lock someone after that. However, I usually start with merge it. It's the easiest way, and I can land its skill efficiently and effectively. Once I need to get out, I can actually disengage with the B and simply leave the beast mode. Now you want to catch the enemy like this one. You want to catch them first and then keep CC immobilize back to back so they can't run away from your grasp. So usually you would go with short bow 5, short bow 4, or the combination of 2 to simply lock the enemy down. So if they are trying to run from you or run toward you, you can simply CC them. If it's from front, they will be dazed. If it's from the back, they will be stunned. So even if they're dazed, you can lock them down with either the knockdown after you landed your short bow or with entangle, like you need to hold them down with immobilize or with the knockdown. Whatever you used first, depending on the situation, use the second right after. So if they are knocked down, use entangle to already start casting the bleed and they're immobilized. So when the knockdown is ended, they still locked in place. They can't do anything because they're immobilized. They have to condition cleanse or they can't dodge and they can't do anything. They can cast their skills, but they can't move or they can't dodge. And even if you landed the immobilized first, then knock them down before they cast any condition cleanse or whatever, or they try to dodge you because they can't dodge while they're mobbed. So those skills are usually like back to back. And now once they're caught, whether with this or with this, because sometimes you can land this one and don't even have entangle, like with the fight is longer, because this one has like half the cooldown. Right after it, you cast Stinging Sorrow, because this is a 130 range, it's a melee skill. So when the enemy is knocked down or can't move immediately, it will not run from you. You can simply hit your hits and everything will land, and it's great. If they stun broke, if they condition cleanse, if they dodge or whatever, you can follow them with Primal Cry with a huge radius around you. You don't need to direct your camera towards them, anything, it will go right off. So after the knockdown or any control, this is your priority because Primal Cry is easy to land. However, land this first. And as you can see, there's multiple poison here which also will help you heal and like face tank your enemy. So depending on the situation, if your enemy hit back, if there is, like we said, an enemy other here trying to CC you or something, you need to lower the damage. You would cast Dolly Extend by doing something like that. If there isn't, or if it's a 1v1, you can make it much faster for you to unload Burst if you use Quickening Zephyr. If you feel like you need both of the skills, like the fight is going to be way more difficult, you can keep them both. However, never use both of them at the same time. Now, after that, this is the basic burst. You can keep hitting with damage, you can emerge, use your ability, like there is so many scenarios you can change. However, this is the main thing. You catch the enemy with short bow, the knockdown and tangle go well together, and then immediately after the enemy is under your control goes this, and then Primal Cry. So you unloaded most of your burst, if anything. If you need to lock the enemy again, you don't want them to heal, you want to interrupt the heals, you don't want them to cast a condition cleanse or whatever, you can switch bits to the Fernhound and do its own knockdown. And then, since it's on a 20-second cooldown, you better off unmerging and let the bit do its own knockdown because both our bits have knockdown. And then you can switch immediately to the other bit, cast its own condition, which would be the B at this point, and let her do her own knockdown. And then you can merge once this came and start doing the same cycle again. And even before you merge again, the short bow CC would become off cooldown because only 16 seconds, while this whole cycle of bit swap and then merge again and stuff will go in like more than 20 seconds. So you can already CC again and again and again. So let's look at the burst and see how an example of that will work. So like I said, we would be having Sharpen Stone and out catching the enemy, for example, using this skill. Immediately goes this one and then goes Primal Cry. And if I need to change, out goes another knockdown. I will cast my skills. I would leave and let my own bit do its own knockdown. And then we'll switch to the other bit and let her do her own knockdown, as you can see, and cast her own damage and stuff. And I could either unload her with this, or I could immediately merge after that, depending on how much have gone with the fight. You can also even increase the immobilize in case you need it, or already tanking damage from the face of the enemy by healing under them to land the lesser muddy tray on them, which is an immobilize, and then bolts and cripple and slow. So there is so many things you can do to lock the enemy down. We keep locking them again and again and again. And combination of also the bit skill with the lesser might terrain, a lot of slow and a lot of cripple can be applied. Now, some extra tips that when you use staff like that, you can switch bit at the end and shave off 5 seconds from it and even apply protection to that bit you just switch it to. Because this skill, if it's heal any ally, it will lose 5 seconds of its own recharge time, the cooldown. However, for Soulbeast, there is the extra tricks that you can pull to do something like that. Like once you try and travel like that, you can unmerge at the end, so the bit will still appear next to you, and you can also shave off 5 seconds to even kite faster and try to shave off the cooldown even faster from this skill. Now, second tip I want to share is actually casting a beast skill, like while merged with the bit, does not need you to stay merged with the bit. Once you start casting of the skill, it will finish its casting whether you're in or out. So you can immediately unmerge if you want to have this cooldown faster while casting the last skill without finishing it in merge. So for example, let's look at any skill like this one even. I can do that and immediately lift, and as you can see I still casted full damage, no problem. Even the movement skill, even the healing skill. And let's look an example with the Fernhound. So I'm now merged, but would you look at that? And I even healed him and gave him the resistance. Obviously he's already unmerged, so he didn't need the healing, but it can work this way. So if you want to save up time while actually using a bit, like if you unmerge, now the cooldown is counting and you can access skill immediately. You don't need to finish the cast while inside, like casting this one. Let's say you landed this and then this, and you cast this one and you want the bit to go with CC, like immediately unloading your condition fast. So you can use that, and immediately she cast with you, you landed both the skills, and now she would go into knockdown or whatever immediately, which is a very good trick and also to run and pay attention while using Soulbeast. And you can use this trick also in other ways, like even for kiting, to press your skills fast enough in order to access the other bit skill while you're still casting the older one. So let's say you're kiting with your bit back to back, so you want to use the mobility and then switch to the other one. So you can simply cast this, and before it's finished, you can swipe bits and immediately cue the other skill. Now how we use this build underwater. So unlike Druid, we actually use Shark and the armored Skillfish. It have a stun that's not really easy to land, it's very tanky other than that. It doesn't have this much significant damage, it heals itself, give protection, so only the stun is useful, but mostly we choose this bit for actual merge skill. It gives us Unflinching Fortitude, which is a really great survival skill. World vs. Wood, it's a 50-second cooldown, I'm just here in PvE to show it. And it gives you some significant healing and a huge amount of protection. And protection also is healing, so lowering the damage, stopping the damage, and decent healing in general. And for the Shark itself, it gives you a really decent leap when you can actually hit the enemy and do some significant damage to them. And you have Fear from 900 range and still have Primal Cry as a burst main. While in Druid we run the Shark and the Lashtail Devourer, we run the Armored Fish for the Soulbeast. And in Druid we start on Spear in water, because usually you're not kiting to the maximum potential, you're only using staff from land to get to the water, and people can be chasing you on this. Sometimes you don't even have staff because you already used it for healing or something like that. So you get into water, whatever, after stealth or thirsty avatar, and now you want to kite. So you access this weapon, Spear, so you immediately can kite using this skill. You can block, you can reflect or whatever, and after weapon swipe or entrance the avatar as a weapon swipe, you can get swiftness and keep resetting. And also this weapon have cleansing and energy, while the other weapon doesn't have it on Druid. But for underwater, even for the underwater weapon, the Soulbeast have cleansing and energy on both weapons. So you always want the first weapon, once you get you on water you're on, is actually the Harpoon Gun. Because now you get access to the cleansing and energy. If case needed, you can already go into bursting, you can kite with the Shark, you want the Shark to be your first bit, and you move to survival after it. The same as in on land, when you start with the damaging bit, not the survival one. So you want this one, and you can already start moving, you can damage or whatever. And you can simply switch to the other weapon if needed, and start using it for survivability to trigger the sigil again. And if the sigil was already triggered on land, so the cooldown will go to the water too, you would have enough time, so you start kiting when using the other weapon. So the difference between this and in Druid, you start on Harpoon instead of Spear, and the bits are actually Shark and the Armored Fish skill. And in water, I also don't go with Quickening Zephyr most of the time. I actually go with Signet of Stone, since we have also an extra source of stability. Entangle doesn't work underwater, so I run Strength of the Back and I run Signet of Stone. If you want, you can still actually run Quickening Zephyr, you can run line reflex or whatever other choice if you want as a stun break, because you also have unflinching fortitude here. Now, how does this build fare against Druid and Untamed? So let's make one thing simple. You can have multiple advantages over Druid in many builds, like this one would have Doliac Stance as one of the best stun breaks in the game. Access to stability, which Druid technically doesn't have. A way out of any hold, like no immobilize, no chill, no cripple, even better mobility, which mean it can swoop in and leave. Even without access to stealth can be a bit problematic. However, this make it very capable, so it can be advantageous. In fact, not only that, the spike and burst, like CC and burst immediately on a single target, can be faster and better landing than Druid. Druid needs enemy to stuck in immobilize and CC, so even if you can sequence more CC back to back, like days and mobilize right after each other, if the enemy can interrupt this cycle, it's over. This one land faster and easier and even have more damage because we have more Trailblazer and stuff. So the spike is better or greater. However, the downside for a start that we only have short bow for damage and our beast mood and a bit. In Druid, we have the Celestial Avatar, the bit, and the weapon. So they are very similar in concept, like having a weapon for survivability and a weapon for damage only. However, Druid feel more resourceful because of its trait supporting this. With Blood Moon, with more CC, stuff like that. And it can land more its damage AoE. It can really control the area around it, so it feel more efficient comparing to this one that really focus on a single target, whether you hit with those skill. This skill is even single target. The knockdown, this one is a single target. So there is so many things you can do, is very like focused instead of actually cleaving people more. Even the way you secure yourself around you, Celestial Avatar you can cleave everything, but this one have access to some cleave and some focused hits. So like we said, it has some advantage over Druid with the stability, the extra movement and stuff, and the spike in damage. However, there is no condition built in the total or in the end for Ranger will ever be better or really equal to Druid. Druid is almost designed by Arianet after the reworks and adding to the Eclipse and Blood Moon traits and stuff. It's really designed for condition. It's the only class access to stability easily with a trait for Celestial Shadows. Having access to Celestial Avatar in itself was more control, days, condition cleanse, extra healing. It just so fluid that nothing really can play as good as it is if you want to play condition. So it have its downside, it have its own flaws. Like my build doesn't have stability, and if you add stability, you weaken the build. You really cripple the build with whatever you do. If you play condition Druid and add stability through the glyph or through something like Strength of the Back, you really cripple the build without access to entangle. You're lowering even its survivability at this point. Even you adding to stability, you're lowering the survivability through the control of enemy's position. So that one, even the Untamed, if you want to run the lead skill, they can really like lock this hole, like make it actually better. They don't have this problem. And they are a little bit tankier with more health, especially the Untamed one. So this one is not simply worse than Druid. It have advantages, it have unique capability when playing even with allies, as a spike in damage, the access to different builds. It's really good. Even the choice of Relic that can make it very strong, and how other with the Reflect and stuff. So it's good in its own sense, but nothing will be at the same level of Druid as overall capabilities. So that's it for the video. I hope you like it and find it informative and enjoyable. Drop in the comments and ask any question in case you need it. And I'll be seeing you next time. Peace.